almost half of all employees worldwide struggle with burnout symptoms. In the United Kingdom, this percentage is 21%. Only 23% of employees feel connected to their work, and in Europe, that number is even lower at just 13%. This is not a temporary issue, this is a systemic crisis. The economic damage is enormous. Globally, the lack of engagement alone costs nearly $9 trillion annually. That amounts to almost 10% of the entire world economy, an amount that is nearly 2.5 times the total economy of the United Kingdom. And this problem is only growing. Millennials and Gen Z no longer accept rigid hierarchies, control mechanisms, and structures that lack autonomy and meaning. Companies that fail to adapt to this will face structural challenges in attracting and retaining talent over the next 10 years. To solve this problem, companies are investing billions in HR strategies, bonuses, and motivation programs. They implement psychological assessments, develop soft skills training, and build extensive reward structures. Yet, the numbers continue to decline. Why? Because they keep searching for the right individuals when they should actually be looking for the right team composition. The problem is not that individual employees don't fit, but that the way teams and hierarchies are structured is unnatural. Job descriptions, power positions, and reporting lines dictate how collaboration works, while the natural dynamics between people are completely ignored. This leads to tensions, miscommunication, and energy loss within teams, ultimately resulting in demotivation and burnout. But the most bizarre part is that this dynamic has always existed. It's like trying to treat diseases for centuries without knowing that bacteria exist. Only after the invention of the microscope did the hidden world of microorganisms become visible, forever changing medical science. The same applies to organizations. For decades, companies have been trying to improve collaboration through training, structures, and rewards, while the real mechanism that determines how teams function has been right in front of us the whole time. We just never saw it because we were looking at the wrong indicators. Until now.
With the development of the Organihedron model, this mechanism has finally been made visible. This model demonstrates that collaboration is not determined by job descriptions, management structures, or individual competencies, but by the natural energetic dynamics that have always existed within teams. Just as the microscope revealed what we previously couldn't perceive, the Organihedron model allows us to understand for the first time why some teams function effortlessly while others constantly struggle. It explains why certain groups spontaneously develop leadership and synergy, while others become stuck in conflict and inefficiency, regardless of the experience or skills of individual team members. This means we can design organizations in a completely different way. No longer as hierarchical structures, where positions and power dictate how work is carried out, but as living systems, where collaboration arises naturally and continuously adapts to the needs of the team and its environment, and that changes everything. Power does not corrupt by itself. The problem is not people, but the system. Research shows that most people who aspire to a higher position do not do so to control others, but to gain autonomy. They seek the freedom to make decisions, to be less dependent on approval and bureaucratic constraints. But here, a fundamental mechanism comes into play. The lower someone is in the hierarchy, the stronger their need for autonomy. This drive for independence is the primary reason people strive for higher positions. However, the higher one climbs, the less autonomy remains a motivating factor. Once autonomy becomes a given, it loses its value, and the driving force shifts toward control. This is not conscious corruption, but a psychological effect of hierarchical structures. Power makes individuals dependent on the system that legitimizes their position. To maintain that position, rules, structures, and control mechanisms are expanded. This explains why hierarchies become increasingly complex. As an organization grows, more control is added to keep it manageable. New management layers, procedures, and rules seem necessary, but ultimately concentrate power at the top. As a result, leaders become increasingly disconnected from the reality on the ground. Research also shows that leaders who remain in positions of power for longer periods become less open to feedback, less empathetic, and less sensitive to signals from subordinates. Not because they have bad intentions, but because the system forces them to make decisions without direct contact with the people affected by them. And this is where the real danger lies. The larger the hierarchy, the more control seems necessary to sustain it. This leads to expanding bureaucracy, a decrease in autonomy, and increasing workloads for employees. The consequences are visible everywhere: high burnout rates, low engagement, and organizations stuck in their own complexity. Power itself is not the problem. The issue is the way we structure power, prioritizing control over collaboration, suffocating organizations in the process. As long as this mechanism remains intact, burnout rates will continue to rise, and engagement will keep declining. The question is not if this will happen, but how we break the cycle. What if there were a way to build teams that didn't rely on bureaucratic structures, complex assessments, or hierarchical control mechanisms, but were simply free and naturally available? That way already exists. Every organization has access to it. Just as gravity existed before Newton formulated it, collaboration patterns have always been present, but have never been consciously utilized. This is why organizations keep facing the same mystery. Why does one team function effortlessly, while another, with the exact same qualifications, struggles? The reason is simple. Collaboration is not determined by resumes, titles, or competency profiles, but by a deeper natural energy that is always present within teams. People are not born as managers, strategists, or executors, yet they naturally carry a unique collaboration energy, a blueprint that instinctively determines where they thrive best. And yet, organizations continue to focus on artificial structures, formal titles, and job descriptions, while the real key to effective teamwork has always been right in front of them. The key lies in something everyone has from birth, a unique collaboration energy. Just as your fingerprint is set from birth, every person has a unique energetic blueprint, a way of working together that is entirely natural and instinctive. Qustify finally makes this hidden dynamic visible and applicable.
Qustify is an advanced ERP people management system designed for national and international network organizations that want to move away from rigid organizational charts and fixed power structures. Instead of enforcing control and structures, Qustify enables teams to form themselves based on natural energy and synergy. How Qustify works. It provides a complete framework for organizing people in dynamic networks rather than static structures. It helps design self-organizing teams and optimizes collaboration based on natural balance. It offers real-time insights into team functionality and where optimizations are needed. It replaces traditional HR processes, allowing collaboration to flow naturally rather than being managed. Just as the microscope made bacteria visible, Qustify finally makes the invisible mechanical and energetic collaboration within organizations measurable and actionable. By applying this method, the traditional problems that companies have been struggling with for years simply dissolve. Burnout rates drop drastically, employee engagement skyrockets, and organizations operate with less resistance and friction. No more forced hierarchies, endless motivation programs, or unnecessary management layers. What has always worked, but was never seen, is now tangible and applicable. The question is not if organizations will embrace this natural way of collaborating, but who will seize the advantage first. Organizations that cling to traditional structures will find it increasingly difficult to attract talent in the coming years. The new generation of employees will not accept a workplace that lacks autonomy and meaning. The Organihedron model and Qustify make it possible to fundamentally redesign organizations, not as a static pyramid, but as a living network of dynamic collaboration. This is not a vision of the future. This exists today. Companies that embrace it now will gain an advantage that cannot be matched. The question is not if organizations will change, but who will be the first to lead this transformation. Qustify is ready. The model is ready. The technology is here. The insights are here. The only question is, are you ready to take the step? Get in touch and discover how your organization can transform with the latest insights into natural collaboration and dynamic teams. The revolution has begun. Now it's up to you.